evening. Welcome to the Board of Education's work session for March the 9th. Can we stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Evening, everybody. Our first item will be budget discussion.
Yes.
I think everybody's got their superintendent's proposed budget in front of them, and we've been doing this for a few months.
Yes, so President Smith, members of the board, this evening we're going to be talking about budget. You do have the presentation in front of you, and I'd just like to start with the actual PowerPoint. And the first slide shows that uniquely so we'll be blending several resources together in order to propose a full budget. You see about 60% coming from local, about 38% coming from state. Obviously, that's not quite 100%. We do bring in small revenues as it relates to those that use our facilities, those that pay out-of-state tuition, and those types of things. So you can see that's a very small sliver of the overall budget. And then this year, uniquely so, we continue with those ESSER funds, specifically looking at targeting 5th through 8th grade as it relates to Chromebooks, and then putting in 5 additional English language teachers. That priority came through the process, so I kind of do want to refresh the process that we took, because it was a lengthy process this year, but took an opportunity to have everybody sit at the table together. What are the priorities through the district? And EL teachers was a huge priority, and so that was one of the number one things that we needed to address. So looking at those ESSER funds, now I will bring your attention to the expiration date of those ESSER 3 funds, which you can see that is September 30th of 24. We also right now are in the process of applying for what's called the Maryland Leeds Grant. That grant is, believe it or not, ESSER monies that were filtered to the state level that we have an opportunity to apply for. There's 8 different sections, and we are applying for all 8, and this would bring a significant amount of money to the district. And again, looking at what were those priorities that we heard throughout the budget process, which were additional guidance counselors and social workers. And again, you can see that that goes up through June 30th of 24. So that is concerning, to be very honest with you, because that creates what we would call a potential cliff. So you have funding for 2 years, and then that funding goes away. So right now, I wish I had the answer, but I don't. But I can tell you that the blueprint monies are not finalized yet, and there's a lot of moving parts there that we are monitoring literally on a daily basis. I think the legislation will have some impact on those total numbers. And then the other kind of part of the puzzle is really the enrollment piece of it. So we're down about 350 students. That's roughly around $15 million. As of the September 30th count for 23, and then the September 30th count for 24 will have a huge impact on us. If we don't recover, that could potentially make that cliff real to us. If we recover that enrollment, then it's going to put us in a much better standing. So that's kind of all the blended resources together. I'm going to take a deep breath to see if anybody has any questions from this initial slide.
Maybe for the Leeds Grant, so do we have any idea what type of money we'd be talking about? Let's say if we got money from all 8 sections.
Probably upwards over $8 million.
And when would we know that?
April
22nd.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so then I assume that there's a time limit. So like you were saying, we're hitting these cliffs June and September, and it's kind of money is off. Would those grants be able to be extended? If we got that, I assume that they could be used in that.
No, so we're planning for those 2 years, what they look like. Now, there's certain parts of the blueprint that we have been notified on, smaller sections within, as I said, as you know, there's lots of moving parts there, that we've been notified, like this funding source will be available for the next 13 years, this funding source. So we have some of those pieces to the pie, but some of the bigger ones, we don't have that information. And as I said, the legislation is actually gonna, I think, be a true telltale of what our ending numbers are going to be. There's several bills that are in there that will definitely influence us one way or the other, and we don't know how they're going to fall out. We're just following them every single day. So, yeah, more information to come certainly over the next 4 weeks.
Thank you.
Any other board members? So as we move through, I really wanted to take special attention to what are the district needs as it relates to personnel, and altogether look at the whole compensation enhancement. I have to say personally that the board has been more than supportive, and these numbers tell that tale. So we have the salary increases with FICA and retirement costs at $3.15 million. That is a placeholder at this time. But we also have to look at our health care, which was an increase of really 12%. And we have a recommendation to use $1.7 million of the reserves. So that takes it from off the plate of our employees and shows the commitment that the board has made. So that 5% would be $550,000. And again, the 1.7 has to be included in that too. So if you add up those figures of 3.1 million plus the 550,000, that's the 5% plus the 1.7 that we're making the commitment to. That's $5.4 million that the board is focused on a placeholder for the overall compensation enhancement for employees. And I think that's significant, because if you look at our overall budget, I think that's very significant.
Can I ask a question? How much is in the reserve right now?
In the ESMAC Healthcare Trust Reserve?
As far as our portion? Are we allowed to know that number?
It is not broken out. It is the county and board blended together. We can request that, and hopefully that they can provide it to us soon.
Because I don't want to take the bigger piece of the pie that's not ours.
Right, it's been blended for several years, and it's a little over $12 million.
And this was the recommendation from the partners who that's their role for us, is that they look at this and they make a recommendation based on the numbers that are there. So that's in their wheelhouse, that's their expertise.
And they wouldn't allow us to take the entire amount?
No, exactly. They're going to recommend something that keeps
don't ask,
us.
don't get. So,
Yeah, they're going to recommend
right.
something that keeps us stable, and it's a good question.
But if we take the 1.7, which I think is prudent, it's a reoccurring cost. And that's
Are we always going to have to fund it from there?
Well, that's what I mean. If we do, then we have a long-term problem. I think we've talked about it before, that this might be a year anomaly because, we've been through COVID, people have been in, now they're going out more, going to doctors more, so, and doctors are opening up more to see patients. So I think we're also hoping that this year will be a physically challenging year, but in the future, we might see a little bit of a, downward, we hope a downward trend.
I agree with that completely. And we are in a better place than some of those that are in the ESMAC consortium together. I mean, some of our neighbors are at 12% with no help. That's 12% going directly to the employees. So, I feel like there's that commitment there. I also want to just kind of bring out the part that this also really focuses on that livable wage for all of our employees and making sure that we are above the minimum wage. And to do that, that's also calculated in that one column of salary increases, FICA, and retirement costs. So this is the largest placeholder. I asked Jane to go back and look several years back, and as far as she could find, this is the largest placeholder and commitment from the board to date that we could see. So I think that's significant and should be noted. Any other questions from that? And you can see the additional supports. And again, you see that 5 EL teachers, the 2 counselors there, and then a maintenance position. Basically in food service, a lot of our tickets come from the food service area, whether it be a refrigeration issue or whatever. So looking at their funds to support that maintenance position. And then the 2 PE and health teachers are those unfunded mandates that we have spoken about prior to, where we're increasing those credits from a half credit to a full credit. And so
That's state mandated. those-
that's state mandated, the credit count.
And we just don't have the
Unfunded.
staff.
Unfunded.
Yeah, right. We don't have the staff to add another half semester.
No, we don't have the staff to do that, and we also cripple any of the upper level classes so even if we could squeak by, we would only be able to teach just PE and health, like we wouldn't be able to do strength and conditioning and all the other elective opportunities for our students, so it wouldn't really be equitable across the board. Okay. So continuing on with the district needs, but focusing more on the supports just for classrooms. We've had taken a lot of time and energy, thanks to Jane and her team, to look at the copier situation. And we have copiers throughout the entire district that have long been paid for, that don't have maintenance contracts with them, that are breaking down, not functioning. And so we evaluated the entire district and reached out to some of our neighbors to determine that really the leasing option is a better option to go with. Not only is it better for your maintenance, it's better for long-term care, longevity, but overall, it's good for your costs, because as these machines get older, each click costs more and more. So you don't want to keep a machine for 10 years and limp it along. You want to be able to lease it so that every few years you're refreshing those machines. And so that's a cost that's a big support for our schools, is copiers. The increase in tutoring funds, obviously with COVID, we have gaps for our students, and so we will continue to put the funds there to address those gaps. And then materials, curriculum writing, training, those types of things there. This was really that was really part of the realignment that we've been talking about through this whole budget process, and as well as the textbook allocation. Those things were located in a capital budget, which should really be in our operating budget, and so those things were added as well. Textbooks and things like that.
I think we talked to the commissioners last year that we're going to have to redo that, and this is one of the things we have to put back in our
Operating budget, yeah,
with a couple other
exactly.
things, I think.
And this includes our computers and those things? Or-
Not the textbooks. The textbook is just pure textbook allocation.
So I have to bring up conferences. During COVID, we cut all the conferences out of the budget for 2021, 22, because nobody was going to go anywhere because we're still in COVID. I still have a hard time putting money in conferences when I know there's so many needs in the classroom. So, that's just a concern of mine to put that much money in conferences.
This whole thing of $345,000 includes materials of instruction, curriculum writing, which a lot of it's curriculum writing, so that's actually salary based.
Right.
Some training, some licensing memberships. The conferences is not a huge piece of this.
I was just looking at the numbers.
But honestly, we do have to have some sort of conferences because we really need to keep up with the professional development piece of it. And we're going to get to the summary, and we'll review that of how much it is when we get to the kind of the more weeds of that summary. And really, I also wanted to say that all of those areas there, or most of those areas there, that the supervisor had to wait until the end of the year, and then it was like, if you had year-end monies, then you did that. And that's not a good practice, only because you really want to address the needs as they come along for the year. You don't want to just say, put them off, and then wait to the end of a school year and say, okay, so what are your needs now? And if we have the money, we can pay for it. We really need to be upfront and say, what are the needs? Let's get the funding source to meet those needs instead of kind of doing it backwards. So it's really back to that realignment almost. And then the other supports for the district as we move forward, the painting, inspections, and insurance, again, that was something that was typically done in that capital, that we've done that realignment. Lease to own for the buses, this is really cost of doing business. You have 15-year-old buses that need to be replaced.
And these are our buses, like for special ed and things of that nature, not that's contract.
LLC.
So these are our buses. The maintenance vehicles, again, the cost of doing business. At some point, you have to, and we're moving that into a leasing so that we don't have
On your head.
right, or a maintenance vehicle that we keep and that we're, limping along and putting all this money into it. This is a safer option and a more efficient option. And then, of course, your placeholder for transportation contract services, again, cost of doing business. And the 2 bus drivers, we actually have had to add them this year as kind of substitutes, and then we would be putting them in as permanent. We have some students that were on routes for entirely too long, and we had to. We just didn't really have a choice. We had a couple special ed situations that, we need to look at what's best for the student, and being on a bus for more than an hour is not in the best interest of students. So we've addressed that through 2 additional drivers this year, which we need to really continue those services for next year. So, any questions on that?
I have just a quick question on the insurance. For the allocation for the contracted maintenance, what would that insurance, what is that for, and what does that look like?
For the painting, inspection, and
Insurance of,
Insurance
first line
of your buses, of your vehicles.
okay, so not, it has to do with the contracted maintenance, just,
It's maintenance as far as
Insurance,
vehicles and
okay.
things like that,
Okay.
in the maintenance category.
thanks.
thank you, Mrs. Towers. So if we go to the budget summary, you'll see the state revenue. And what I want to draw your immediate attention to is it says with blueprint for Maryland's future. And so immediately I kind of want to flip to line 79, if you'll follow along with me. And you'll see 79, 80, 81, and 82. These are all, again, unfunded mandates. So the first one is the national board certification, the price tag of $260,000. And then you see those new PE teachers. And then you see some special ed positions that were previously in those blueprint for Maryland funds that now have to be absorbed into the regular budget, as well as that mental health coordinator. So, I just wanted to share that with you, that while that looks like $4,056,000, it's not. It's minus these positions here and these additional
That's
costs.
that could be close to $750,000 right there, all of it.
Yeah. And then the second line, we put in at 1.5. We had originally put it in at $340,000. Friday, we got word that the calculation for MOE was not accurate. And then on Monday, we got that in writing, that they are now going back and recalculating that. There was 13 districts altogether that were negatively impacted. 2 of those districts were very large districts, one being Baltimore City, who was going to lose over $100 million if that Senate bill went through and that calculation went through. So we know that it's definitely going to change, and we know that it's going to change for a positive. We just don't know what that exactly is going to be at this very time. So we're putting in the 1.5 because that was based off of prior year. So with that, that's how this whole budget is built around that placeholder of 1.5 million.
And I know you and Ms. Towers have been very close with the accounting staff of the county and
Yes.
the commissioners to keep them updated on this, because it's a concern of theirs, I know. At 340, I know they've been advised that this is an upward thing when we're justifying our budget, but it's a moving target. And
It
we're not
is
going to
right
know
now.
probably till about April, maybe?
Yeah, the session's over on April 11th, so I assume that we will.
Has to be done by then, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. So we hope, maybe. It's not an absolute.
Along with the other things, and I keep entering this, some of the capital things we've incorporated in this budget too.
That's exactly
So,
right.
Just with the books and painting, it's probably 800,000 plus. So, there's some, it's all real money. I mean, I'm not saying
Right.
that, we're not, but it's not that we're trying to do something for nothing.
No, not at all. And as I said, so we have that placeholder in, and honestly, we have looked at worst case scenario, and we have a plan B, and we know that if we don't get this 1.5 and we get the original estimation, which was 340,000, we have a plan for that. If we're completely flat funded and we don't get any increase, we have a plan for that. Is it going to impact staffing? Yes, it will. still. But let's cross that bridge when we get there. Let's create this placeholder right now and roll with this. And then if we need to do our modifications and amendments, then we will do that. But we're definitely keeping an eye on it and feel good about where we are right now.
I mean, the one thing is we're going to open up schools in September.
We are definitely going to open up schools in September.
How we open them up.
Yeah.
And I think over the last couple of years, we have had a reduction in staff. I think one year we had, what, close to 20, Ms. Harper?
Yes.
And last year we had 10 or 12.
Yes.
So, this has been an ongoing thing. And at some point, you can move people around. And so I'm hearing some of our teachers, they're overwhelmed, but, when they don't have an assistant in the room and stuff like this,
Right.
it makes a difference.
Yeah. And it's interestingly enough, the budget process can be very complicating. And, while we're getting funding from some of these other sources that I just shared with you through ESSER 3 or through, Maryland Lead and things like that. So it could put us in a position where we're cutting some of our, positions that are in our operating budget, but yet we're adding positions over here, and how does that flow together? So I think that's the tricky part right now that we're going to be working through and figuring out once we get that final number for line 2.
Can you remind me, is the equipment stuff in the capital fund?
Depends on what.
The operating fund?
It depends what it
It
is.
depends on what it is, but the capital is usually your building.
So what did we do with like the purchase and the maintenance of equipment, computers?
The computers, we put that in ESSER 3.
Okay.
Yeah. Right, Jane?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Right, and but that will, that's the end of something at some point.
That ends on 24.
Yes.
So then what's our plan?
Well, it'll be outright purchase, so we'll have 4 years. So we'll have to plan for it in 4 years and maybe go to the leasing option again. So 1.4 million will come out of ESSER 3 to support those Chromebooks for grades 5 and 8 through 8.
What about the high school?
The high school, they still have 1 more year, and it's in the operating.
Okay.
It's
Are you
already
sure?
in
Did
our
those three, did
current
this
operating
3 years
budget.
ago, right? The high school. Okay. I have a question. To go back to these sheets, the salary increase, FICA, retirement, I'm off from 77, 78, 79. It's not adding up to this 3.152. Am I missing something? Possibly the taxes?
Okay, so we have the placeholder at $2,750,651. You have the increase in the hourly rate for subs at $100,000.
Right.
You have the national board certified teachers at $260.
Right.
We have the nurses increase at $42,000.
There it is. I didn't see the nurse increase. Thank you.
For sure. So the second section is reduction.
Can I ask a quick question,
Oh,
though?
sure.
I have 2 different ones. Are we using a different one? And this has got, it's not the same. So are we going to be using another one when you go over the ESSER? But they're named the same.
So when you look at this, if you look
Okay,
at the
so-
top right-hand corner, there's a date.
Okay, so.
It had to be updated for a couple things.
Okay, so why do I have 2 of them?
We want
Not the
to make sure
same.
we're using the 371.
Okay.
So as I had said, the budget process was very lengthy, and we took time to go through and sift through the budget to look at actuals and to look at, is there any opportunity for savings? And we asked the entire team to do that. So your principals at the building levels, we asked supervisors and such. And so you can see here, we have about $900,000 in savings overall through just the budget process that we went through. And then if you turn over, you can see where it's basically cost of doing business. And these are a result. This is pretty lengthy this year, and it's because this is the first time that we went through this process. Next year, you won't see a lot of these very small items on here. This was trying to really get some actuals in place to plan ahead, be proactive. As I said, not wait till the end of the year to say, okay, we have end of year funds, and now you can, do printing and publishing for HR department type of thing. So,
Yeah, they're on here quite a bit.
so anyways, these, I don't know if anybody has any questions, but these are things, as I said, that Amy really worked with her team, the executive team worked together, and just to see where is it that we can eliminate having to come to the end of the year and do things that way. And that takes us, as I said, to part 2, which was additions, and we've already talked about that and going through all of those unfunded mandates. And then that brings us to the request for additions, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that, line items 83 through 89 are just a very small fraction of what we had been requested. So we would be more than happy to provide you with an entire list of all of the requests that we had. But the team kind of looked at something that was more reasonable in nature, that we might, if we were to get a little bit of extra money above where we thought we were going to be, what would our priorities be? And so we kind of listed out those priorities. But we can certainly take that out for several more pages, but just didn't think that that was necessary at this time until we get a better eye on what exactly our funding source is going to be.
And you're talking somewhere between 250 and 300,000 from 83 to 89.
Well, certainly having 2 new kindergarten teachers is key. I mean, all the studies say that, that early learning is one of the most crucial.
That's correct. Yep.
Well, and this in anticipation, I'm assuming, of full-time.
Kindergarten.
So we have a 3-year plan for pre-K, the expansion of pre-K, and actually, I guess this is kindergarten, but also seeing some balloons there where class sizes were getting a little larger, and knowing that they don't have instructional assistants in there, so trying to pull out and reduce class size at the kindergarten level. That's what these 2 are for. But we're also, as I said, using as many funds as we can at the pre-K level with expansion grants and the, help me out, expansion and
Transitional blueprint.
transitional money. So we do have a bucket of money there that is addressing the pre-K. So we're trying to put more energy into kindergarten to make sure class sizes are well.
So it's your recommendation to send over 5.5 in additional requests
To the county?
to the county? Is that what?
1.5.
Yeah, 1.5 here, line 2. That would be the MOE.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boy, I was getting big. 1.5, 5.5.
Now, we can do that if that's, if that's what the board
I
wants
see it
to do.
now.
Your phone could be ringing shortly.
Yeah, no, we are, that placeholder that we would like to ask for right now is 1.5.
Okay.
And pending what we hear from, the final calculations of the MOE from the state.
Do you want to wait till after we get the calculations before we send this over?
I don't know that we can necessarily wait, and I'll let Mrs. Towers go into her conversations as it relates to budget amendments and such because of where the state is right now.
Right, so the state's recommendation is to do not let this hold up the budget process, almost like where we were last year, where, and you're shaking it so you remember,
Yes.
that you approve your budget and know your budget amendment process. So by the June 30th, you'll have the numbers, have your budget amendment, and be able to go in July.
And I think we've been very open. I know Dr. Sellens has met with, and so has Ms. Towers, with the finance department and
Yes.
the commissioners to keep them up to date on what we're facing, the numbers we're facing, and how this is going. Maintenance effort is maintenance effort. We have a budget to provide our school system to operate efficiently. I think we have a budget set and send it on. Will it get changed if some hard things have to be made probably if we don't get full funding? Yes, there will be, and that's probably something we got to realize, which I think you mentioned earlier. You got plan A and B.
Yes.
And we've done that before.
We're going to have to do that. I mean, it's just things, priorities and things, who knows what's going to happen over the next couple of months. But that's what we have to, I think, realize. But, this is what it is. I like some of the things we do. It's certainly an open, this has been one of the easier budgets to look at and comprehend than some of the ones we've been through before. It's always more money than everybody, wants to do, but it is what it is.
Well, it's always going to be an increase when you have the cost of doing business thing to look at. I mean, a lot of that is.
We've committed, $5.4 million for personnel? With healthcare and
A little bit, yep, 5.4 million.
So,
You're exactly right,
when you-
1.7 plus the 3.7.
We can't,
and then,
and we have to take it in, the cost of doing business. Electricity's going to go up this year, gas is going to go up this year. It's not going to stand still. I mean, overall,
For personnel,
insurances,
what, 85% of our.
supplies.
So we're,
Your trash bags are going to cost more because of the oil prices. I mean, it's a roll, it's just a rolling down a hill, boulder going very fast.
anybody else? Helen, you got anything?
No.
I appreciate what you all have done. Ms. Towers, I appreciate what you've done. Dr. Sellers, I appreciate, presenting this way. And I personally, I would like to see us, approve it. And with understanding is there'll be some more changes probably by June the 30th. But our hands are tied right now because the state's not telling us. It's a moving target. But we can't wait until May and then all of a sudden be running around like a chicken with their head cut off. So I entertain a motion.
Not yet, sir. Action item first.
Okay,
I'll be glad to give you one in a few minutes.
that's fine. Okay, any further discussion on the budget? Any questions for anybody? Okay, thank you. Moving on to action items. Our first one on there will be our school calendar. Everybody had a chance to look at it last meeting.
Have we had any more comments?
I got one email, and it was mainly a couple suggestions, but it was mainly not wanting to open up any earlier in August and everything.
I had two teachers stop me at the play Friday night to ask me, what were the thoughts on A and B, and I was like, why don't you tell me yours?
And I think it was, 76% wanted A?
71.
71.
71 and 29, yes, sir.
And as we go through school, there's going to be a day somebody doesn't want to, I mean, it's a move, we got to be there 180 days. 189 for things, and, I know Helen's got a concern about snow days.
Yeah, I would like to have seen us build in at least 5, because if we took our averages of the last 3 years, that was 5. And it seems more challenging to come back and have the public see that, we said it and then they've changed their plans or we change it. So it seems easier if we would just build in 5, which has been the average, and then at least we can not have to take more, maybe change it on that side. We can get out a day earlier or something if we don't use them all, but
We typically would tack those on to the end of the year anyway. If A is selected, then you have at least 2 options to kind of make them up during, but we wouldn't add, if we were to add 2 more days, we wouldn't add them within the year. They would automatically be tacked on to the end anyway. So we certainly could modify option A by adding 2 additional days to the end for additional inclement weather days.
I don't know what anyone else's thoughts are. It just seemed if it was more work and more challenging for people for us to change the calendar during the year, whereas and it seems as if we're always hitting 3 days.
So to add to Helen's part of the conversation, you would take June 9th then and be a half day for students, or June 12th would be actually? If we were going to add the extra 2 days on. So, yes.
Right, so.
June 12th would be the half day.
Exactly, so June 12th would be the half day, that's exactly accurate. Or the board could choose to just add 1 and go in between the 3 and 5 and do 4, and just add that Friday as an additional inclement weather day being a half day.
Right.
But I think the one thing you just mentioned, if we are going to add days, first of all, in good faith, we want to be in school safety-wise as much as we can. I like A because it gives a little flexibility on 2 holidays, which we would still celebrate in our schools.
Absolutely.
But we would do that. And then we've done good faith, we go to the state, possibly if it's a hard winter to get a waiver. And then if we have to, then we'd add them on to the end. At the end of the year is the only time we add them on if we're going to do it.
I like Helen's idea about adding 1 more extra day. So the 9th would actually be a half day for the students, and the 12th would be a PD day for the teachers. And if we don't need them, then we don't need them.
And didn't we have someone that said and if by chance then the MLK Day became a weather day, weren't they saying they have a really big celebration that's actually on MLK? Didn't somebody?
I did have 2 emails from community, and I emailed them back. I think I copied the board on that.
No, I think that's why it's,
With
yeah.
basically, let's make it a day on in our schools, and how can we partner together? I mean, we do amazing with, like Veterans Day, I mean, we do amazing things in partnership with the community. Why wouldn't we take an opportunity, let us do what we do best, which is educate, right? And have a really awesome celebration. I think we would do great things. And so, I would certainly make a huge commitment to, if we have to use that as a snow makeup day, that we make it quite a celebration and an educational experience for our students.
That would
If
be,
we added another day in there, we wouldn't have to do that. That could be, we could take that off the table as a weather contingency day? Is that right? If we
So,
added another?
so then you really want to select calendar B then?
No, right.
Right.
Well, I thought it said it was closed.
he starts earlier in August.
Yeah, calendar A gives provisions for both Martin Luther King and President's Day to be used if necessary as weather days, but calendar B does not.
All of the days are at the end.
All the days are at the end anyway.
Right, but it says all schools were closed for Martin Luther King's Day, so.
Right.
Right.
If we
I
have,
think-
if we have snow prior to Martin Luther King Day.
Right, which we
then-
rarely do, but,
Rarely.
yeah, we rarely
then we would
do.
have we'd be off that day.
Exactly.
If we do have snow, we'd be on, and we'd have things there. The next flag
Is
is
President's
President's Day.
Which
Same
we
thing.
use this year.
If we use that day,
Right.
then
Right.
then we would be in school President's Day. And both those days, I mean, it gives an opportunity for us to, we do it in school anyway. That's what we're there for, to teach
Right, exactly.
history and stuff. So
Yeah.
to me, having it in school is just,
And it shows
and
that good
partnership
faith
with the community,
effort anyway.
so-
As I said, it does show the effort on the front end of it, so that if we do have 4 or 5 days, then we can ask for a waiver. Look, we already made up 2 days, we added 1 day to the end of our schedule, we're asking for a 2-day waiver. So you can do that too, and we're kind of in that position right now. I mean, I'm waiting to make sure that season is over.
Right, yeah.
Knock on
But
wood.
we still
Thought it
do have
was,
1
and
day,
then
and
thought it
so
wasn't.
we've made a good faith effort to make up days, and I think we're in a good place for a waiver. I mean, if we're denied, Comar clearly says we have to make an effort, and we've done that, so.
And I think the Schedule A gives us a great effort, saying, look, we're
Ahead of
planning-
time.
These are 2 days we're planning.
We're
If-
planning.
If necessary, we'll do it, but if it's not necessary, we'll be out. And that,
Right. And we can, as I said, we can certainly add an extra weather day at the end and make that Friday, just bump that one if that's the purview of the
Couldn't we
board.
do that, couldn't we do that in the spring if we find out we're in trouble?
Yes.
Well, we would
Right,
have
but
to
then we'd have to come-
regardless.
right,
She's just saying, do we plan ahead so people know it's better to back off than to add on,
They're
which
all-
is
but-
fine.
We can, but then they're all going to be, not playing devil's advocate, they're all going to be playing, well, do you have it or don't you have it?
Yeah.
At some point, whenever we make the decision to add a day, we've been making the same decision to take it away because we didn't use it.
That's
This is,
true.
well, this is the time of year that we would be adding it,
Right, or taking it away.
or taking it away. Thank you. So,
That's where my personal opinion, I think it has a lot of merit and
so do you want a
open
motion?
for anybody.
Do you want a motion? Or-
Any further discussion?
No, like I said, I think we should just plan for the actual weather days that we have traditionally had.
Well,
And
this-
3 has not been it, so.
But this has 5 in it if necessary. If the option.
Right, but then it's just going to come back to us and put it back out there again to the.
And anything else for
No, I'm fine with A.
Amy?
I make a motion to accept calendar option A for the 2022-2023 school year.
Second.
Have a motion, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay? Doesn't matter.
Aye. No, it's aye, it's just, yeah.
Or abstain.
No, I don't want to abstain.
Motion carries 4-0. We will be using option A. We get that out on the website as soon as possible. Okay. Next thing, we've had discussion on our budget. Everybody's had a chance to look at it. We've discussed it. We know where we are. It would be the one we would adopt to both send to the commissioners, I'm assuming?
Yes.
And the state budget, and of course, it can be changed in the future, which we are being advised, things can come up at any time.
So I make a motion to approve or accept the superintendent's proposed budget for the 2023, 2023?
2023.
Right, school year.
Yes.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion is second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it, thank you. Okay, now, we do have a work session next, the 16th, and our next board meeting will be, I'm going to figure this out in a second, April the 6th, is that correct?
Yes.
So our next work session will be the 16th, will be next Wednesday, and April the 6th will be our next regular board meeting.
And we are starting with a closed session, sir, at 4:30?
That's what we had talked about. The agenda will be out by this Friday, so everybody have time to look at it.
Already out.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
Any other thing for the calls? Have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second?
A motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.